The air felt heavy with secrets as I jolted awake at 5:30 a.m., the ghost of a sawmill's rhythm still etched into my bones. No alarm needed. My body hadn't forgotten the grind of 40 years hauling timber. At 65, every joint creaked like old floorboards as I swung my legs onto the chilled hardwood. My small mountain home, perched on a quiet hill, wasn't much, just 2 bedrooms, a modest kitchen, a cozy living room, and the workshop out back where I poured my days into carving. I'd built this place with my own hands in '79, when Clara and I were young and dreaming big. Every nail, every beam held a memory of those hopeful years. But now the house was too still. Clara's been gone 3 years, stolen by cancer's cruel speed. Sometimes I swear I hear her humming in the kitchen, clattering pots like she used to. For a while I talked to her ghost, sharing my day, asking for wisdom. The habit's faded, but the ache hasn't. I shuffled to the kitchen, brewed a pot of coffee so strong it could wake the dead. Clara always warned it'd burn a hole through my stomach. But 40 years later, I'm still here, no ulcers. Breakfast was simple. Scrambled eggs and bacon, nothing fancy. Cooking was her domain, and I'm just a clumsy apprentice in it. Coffee in hand, I stepped onto the back porch, the valley sprawling below. Pineview, our little town nestled between rugged peaks, lay quiet under the morning haze. From my hill I could see the main street shops, the church steeple, the school where my son, Nathan, once ran wild. It's a 15-minute drive to town, but up here it's just me, the pines, and the birds. Late August painted the air with the scent of ripe apples and pine needles. The days warm but not scorching. The nights cool enough to promise fall. Behind the house, 6 apple trees Clara and I planted decades ago stood heavy with fruit, waiting for harvest. Nathan used to help, but lately he's always got an excuse to stay away. Nathan, my only son, is 42 now, a marketing hotshot in the city. Married to Elise for 12 years. No kids, they're too busy climbing corporate ladders. Elise is sharp, a paralegal at some high-end law firm. All polish and ambition, nothing like the folks I grew up with. My bond with Nathan, it's a tangle. We were thick as thieves when he was a kid. Fishing trips, woodworking lessons, bedtime stories where he'd hang on my every word. I was his hero. Then college happened, the first in our family to go. The city, new friends. Elise. It was like he stepped into a world where my rough hands and 8th grade education didn't fit. He never said it outright, but I felt it in the way he'd wince at my simple phrases, how Elise's polite smiles barely hid her discomfort when I shared stories from my life. Our visits grew short, clipped, like he couldn't wait to leave. I finished my coffee and headed to the workshop, my sanctuary. The air smelled of fresh sawdust, the tools gleaming like old friends. Since retiring, I've been carving. Birds, animals, sometimes faces. Nothing fancy, just a way to keep my hands busy. Clara swore I had talent, but she always saw more in me than I did. Today it was an owl, its stubborn wood resisting my chisel. That's the beauty of it. Wood fights back. But with patience, you can shape it into anything. I lost myself in the work, the world fading to just me, the blade, and the grain. At 10:30, my phone buzzed, snapping me out of my trance. I wiped sawdust from my hands and glanced at the screen. Nathan, odd. He usually calls on Sundays. "Hey," I answered, masking my surprise. His voice came through tight, forced. "Hey, Dad, just checking in. How's it going?" I paused. Nathan didn't call to chat. "I'm fine. Why are you calling midweek? Something up?" He chuckled, but it was hollow. "No, nothing's wrong. Just thought I'd see how you're holding up." Silence hung between us. We both knew he wasn't calling for small talk. "All right, Nathan," I said. "What's the real reason?" He sighed, giving in. "Fine. Elise's parents are coming this weekend. We were planning a family dinner Saturday at Lakeview Bistro, that new place downtown. But they botched the reservation, so it's off." My gut twisted. Elise's parents, Victor and Lillian Hale, were city elites. Victor's a professor. Lillian's all high society. I'd met them twice at the wedding and Clara's funeral. Both times they looked at me like I was a relic, something to study but not touch. "So no dinner?" I asked, already knowing the answer. "Yeah, sorry," Nathan said. "Maybe next time." I nodded to myself. "Where are they staying? Maybe I could swing by, say hi." "The Ridge Inn," he replied, too quick. "But they're slammed, Dad. Just 2 days." And Elise has them booked solid, sightseeing. Shopping, you know. I didn't know. Not really. Clara's mom always stayed with us, and we made time for family no matter what. Right, I said. Anything else? His voice dropped. Actually, yeah. We're a bit short on the mortgage this month. Could you spot me $1,000? I'll pay you back when my bonus hits. There it was, the real reason. My hands, scarred from years at the mill, tightened around the phone. Those hands had worked a lifetime to give Nathan a shot at a better life. Now they were only good for writing checks. $1,000, I echoed, thinking of the $2,000 for car repairs last month. Times are tight, Dad, he pressed. Market's shaky, agencies cutting budgets. I cut him off. I'll send it today. No point arguing. Since Clara died, money's been the only tether keeping Nathan in my life. He calls when he needs cash, and I play along pretending it's not a transaction. Thanks, Dad, he said, voice brightening. You're the best. I'll pay you back, promise. We chatted briefly. His job, Elise's promotion, talk of a second car. Not a word about visiting me or inviting me over. I hung up and returned to my owl, but my mind was elsewhere, replaying the days when Nathan and I built birdhouses. His small hands eager to learn. Now he was a stranger in a suit, living in a world of glass offices and power lunches, a world where I was an outsider. At noon I made a ham and cheese sandwich, cracked open a beer. Clara would have raised an eyebrow, but she's not here to scold me. After lunch, I drove my '97 Chevy pickup into town for groceries. The old beast grumbled, but started on the third try, loyal as ever. I could afford a new truck, but this one's full of memories. Clara's blanket still draped over the back seat. At Harper's Market, I grabbed the basics: bread, milk, eggs, some meat. I'm no chef. Simple suits me. At the checkout, I ran into my neighbor, Tom Riley. Walt! He boomed like we hadn't just talked yesterday. How's it hanging? Same old, I said, keeping it short. Tom's a talker, and I wasn't in the mood. Heard your boy's in-laws are coming to town, he said. Helping bag my groceries. I frowned. How'd you know that? He winked. Small town, Walt. Saw Nathan at the florist yesterday, picking up a bouquet for his mother-in-law. I reckon. I nodded, unease creeping in. Nathan was prepping for Victor and Lillian. Flowers. Fancy dinners, while spinning excuses to keep me away. Guess they're busy folks, Tom went on. Too busy to visit their girl often, huh? Seems like it, I muttered, not wanting to dive deeper. Tom snorted. Busy? Too busy for family. Don't buy it. I didn't reply, just thanked him and left. The weight of Nathan's lies settling heavier. Back home, I unpacked groceries and returned to the workshop. The owl was taking shape, but my focus was shot. That evening, I sat at my computer, a clunky thing Clara insisted I get, and transferred the $1,000 to Nathan's account. It wasn't the first time, and it wouldn't be the last. $15,000 over the past year alone, car repairs, furniture, insurance, house payments. Every time he swore he'd pay me back, every time he forgot. I texted him, money sent. Call when you get it. His reply was instant. Thanks, Dad, you're the best. We'll pay you back soon. I stared out the window at the sunset. Pinks and oranges bleeding across the sky. Clara loved those colors. Walt, she'd say, squeezing my hand on the porch, family's everything. It's what lasts. I believed her then. Now I wasn't so sure. Dinner was fried chicken and potatoes. Edible, but nothing like Clara's. I settled into my armchair, flipped on an old Western, but my mind kept circling back to Nathan's call. Something felt off. Too polished, too convenient. Why the insistence that Victor and Lillian were too busy? Why the cancelled dinner? Then my phone rang. It was Hank Carter, a sawmill buddy who'd moved to the IRS 20 years back. Walt, you old dog, his gravelly voice greeted. How's it going? Can't complain, I said. What's up? You don't call at 10 just to chat. He laughed. Guilty. Want to hit the town Saturday? Old Pine Bar, couple of beers, swap stories. Saturday, the night of Nathan's cancelled dinner. Sure, I said. By the way, you hear about that new place, Lakeview Bistro? Yeah, Hank said. Pricey as hell, but folks say the food's worth it. Your boy go there? Mentioned it today, I admitted. Hank snorted. He's doing all right if he's eating there. You raised a high roller. He's earned it, I said, defensive. Sure he has, Hank said, skepticism dripping. How often's he visit? Or just call when he needs a loan. I didn't answer, his words cutting too close. Sorry, man, he backtracked. Didn't mean to pry. See you Saturday. I hung up, unease gnawing harder. Was Nathan lying about the dinner? Was he ashamed of me? Too embarrassed to bring me around Elise's fancy folks? Sleep didn't come easy. I lay staring at the ceiling. Clara's old books and clothes untouched in our bedroom. The thought hit like a sledgehammer. What if the dinner wasn't cancelled? What if Nathan just didn't want me there? The idea burned, bitter and sharp. My own son, lying to keep me from his polished world. In my dream, Clara stood among our apple trees, her eyes sad. Walt, our boy's lost his way, she whispered. He's forgotten his roots. What do I do? I asked. But she faded into the dawn. Morning brought grey clouds and a restless ache. I brewed coffee, staring at the orchard. Nathan's excuses replayed in my head. Too smooth, too practiced. Breakfast was quick. Eggs, toast. Then I drove to town for new jigsaw blades, needing to keep busy. My truck coughed but started. And Pineview's main street greeted me. Unchanged in decades, save for a few new spots, like Lakeview Bistro. At Miller's Hardware, I grabbed blades, sandpaper, and a wood stain, chatting briefly with the clerk. As I stepped outside, a voice called, Walt Grayson. It was Ed Malone, another sawmill vet, retired now, looking spry with his trimmed beard. Been a while, he said, clapping my shoulder. How's Clara? My throat tightened. She passed 3 years back, cancer. His face fell. Damn, Walt, I didn't know, sorry. It's all right, I said. How's your boy, Nathan? Doing fine, I said shortly. Marketing in the city, married. Saw him yesterday, Ed said casually. At Lakeview Bistro with his wife and some older folks. Her parents, maybe. My grip on the bag tightened, knuckles whitening. Yesterday? Yeah, round 7. Looked like a big deal, so I didn't barge in. My heart sank. Nathan had called me at 6, swearing the dinner was off, that Victor and Lillian weren't even in town. You sure it was him? I pressed. Ed nodded. Positive. Same mole on his cheek. Like yours. I thanked him and stumbled to my truck, rage simmering. My son had lied, bold-faced, to keep me away. At home I dialed Nathan's number, voicemail again and again. I texted, we need to talk, urgent. No reply. Rain started, a drizzle turning to a downpour, matching the storm in my chest. I remembered every time. I'd bailed him out. $5,000 for a leaky roof that bought a car, 4 for hospital bills that funded a Hawaii trip, 2 for a water heater that became designer furniture. Each time I'd trusted him. Each time he'd lied. Now this, lying about a dinner to exclude me, using my money to fund it. By evening, he finally called back, voice casual. Hey, Dad, what's urgent? I gripped the phone. Ran into Ed Malone. Said he saw you at Lakeview yesterday with Elise and her parents. Silence, thick and guilty. Dad, I can explain. Don't, I cut him off. You said they weren't coming till Friday, that the dinner was cancelled. But you were there, weren't you? He stammered. It was last minute. Dad, they showed up early. Enough lies, I snapped. I called Lakeview, confirmed his reservation for yesterday, and another for Saturday for 6. No cancellation. Why, Nathan? Why lie to keep me away? He fumbled excuses, but I hung up, done with his stories. I needed the truth. Saturday night, I dressed in my old suit, the one from Clara's funeral, loose on my frame now. I drove to Lakeview, parking a block away to avoid Nathan's notice. The restaurant glowed, its big windows revealing a polished crowd. I stood across the street, watching. At 6:55, Nathan's sleek SUV pulled up. He and Elise stepped out, picture perfect, followed by Victor and Lillian, then Elise's brother, Paul and his wife Jenna, 6 people, just like the reservation. No room for me. I edged closer, hiding behind a potted plant, watching them laugh and talk, a happy family. My family without me. A waiter brought wine. Nathan paid with my card, the one I'd given him for emergencies. The betrayal stung deeper. I slipped inside, got a spot at the bar, and ordered a whiskey. From there, I watched Nathan tell a story, gesturing wildly. As I passed their table en route to the restroom, I caught his words. He actually thinks I'll pay him back. So naive, it's almost funny. Laughter erupted. Elise chimed in. It's his fault. Practically begging us to take his money. Paul sneered. What do you even talk about with a guy who spent his life cutting logs? More laughter. Lillian mocked my suit from their wedding. Victor scoffed at my education. Nathan called my home a shack. My heart shattered, but I kept moving, splashing cold water on my face in the restroom. Back at the bar, I saw them toasting with my money. I left, the night air doing little to cool my rage. At home, I poured whiskey and called Hank. "I need your help," I said, voice raw. I told him everything, the lies, the mockery, the credit card. He listened, then cursed. "I warned you, Walt. What's the plan?" "I want him to learn a lesson," I said. "Not just cutting him off. Something he'll feel." We met the next morning at a diner, away from Nathan's crowd. Hank laid it out. Nathan was likely claiming tax, deductions for my care, fictitious, expenses for medical costs. Caregivers, things that never existed. "It's fraud," he said. "We can report it. The IRS will dig into his accounts, his returns. He'll face fines, maybe worse." I hesitated, but the sting of Nathan's words pushed me forward. "Let's do it." We prepared the paperwork, bank statements, medical records proving I needed no care, a formal IRS complaint. Hank guided me, precise and unflinching. I blocked Nathan's card, citing lost status to the bank. When he called frantic, I played dumb. "Strange transactions, son. Bank's looking into it." He lied again, claiming it was for Elise's birthday gift, 5 months away. The next day, I filed the IRS papers. The investigation moved fast. Within weeks, they found not just tax fraud, but loans. Nathan took in my name, $30,000, using a forged power of attorney. It wasn't just betrayal, it was a crime. I set the final act for Lakeview, 8:00 p.m., inviting Nathan and Elise under the guise of reconciliation. Lloyd and IRS agents would be there, along with police. I wore my old suit, unapologetic. At the restaurant, Nathan and Elise arrived, wary but polished. I didn't waste time. "I know about the dinner," I said, voice steady. "The lies, the card, the tax fraud, the loans in my name." Nathan paled, stammering denials. Then the agents arrived. Hank, an IRS officer, and 2 cops. The room hushed as they laid out the charges. Fraud, forgery, identity theft. Nathan's face crumpled. Elise sobbed, blaming him. The cops read their rights, and as they were led out, Nathan glared at me. "You did this," he hissed. "You betrayed your own son." "No," I said. "You betrayed your father." The restaurant buzzed with whispers, but I felt no triumph, just a hollow ache. Hank stayed by me. "You okay?" he asked. "I don't know," I admitted. "I thought I'd feel something else." We left for the Old Pine, where we drank beer and talked. "Family's not just blood," Hank said. "It's who stands by you." I raised my glass to him, my true family. At home, under the starry sky, I thought of Clara. She'd have chosen truth like me. The apple trees loomed in the dark, waiting for harvest. I'd do it alone this year. And that was okay. I was free, not from pain, but from lies. A new beginning waited, and I'd face it with clear eyes.